as and when cases appear at your facility, if you have the capacity to manage same, it has to be managed there. And what it means is that the workers there will also need these equipment to ensure that they do what is right and also stay safe.
Can you tell me whether the case definition has changed?
The case definition has changed. Proud to, let's say yesterday and this morning, we were using the old case management definition, but now the case definition has changed to include what is happening locally now.
Right.
So it is not only about foreign travel. The old bit of the case definition still stays, but we've added the local bit as well.
All right. So now if you walk in with any of the recognized symptoms, you will be tested. Is that right?
Well, it all depends on the doctor at post. But by and large, that is supposed to be the principle. But of course, as doctors, we still know that beyond COVID, there are other health problems that will involve some of these symptoms. So it is not, let's say you can go with a bit of a cough, a high temperature, what have you. We talk to you, we screen you, and it can pop us as proving malaria.
Right.
That is so clear. But of course, if within that bit, we still feel that, you've had contact with somebody who has tested positive locally, then of course we will have to look at that bit. But if it's so clear to us that it's just malaria, then we'll treat you as such.
I see. But how will it be clear, since we are being told that the symptoms are, and I don't mind bringing Dr. Adumako in here at this point, how will a doctor be able to tell that this ought to be tested? Because there might not be the history of travel, there might not be the contact with known cases, but the symptoms are cough, shortness of breath, headaches, fever. How does the doctor know that it's COVID-19 or it's not? How does the doctor know that it should be tested?
Thank you very much. Let me say a very good morning to you and your listeners. I must say that the two case definitions that was used, that was adopted, by WHO and adopted by other member countries, was for convenience, because COVID, when it started, we didn't know much about it, and the disease had evolved over time. Initially, it was even thought this is a common source epidemic, in that people thought people in Wuhan, in a certain market, had taken some meat from a certain common source. So then the suspected case definition had a link, an epilink in it, that anybody who has respiratory symptoms with a history of travel to China or any of the epicenters in the past 14 days. But with time, it's clear that many countries are now recording what you call secondary cases without primary cases.
History,
and what that means is that there's a community spread, there's person to person spread. So now you can get a case of COVID-19 without the person necessarily having traveled to any of the affected countries in the past 14 days. Hence, they need to have a broadened case definition. So now, a suspected case definition doesn't have an epilink. An epilink just means that somebody who is linked to a confirmed case or has traveled to where the disease is prevalent. So what this means is that anybody presenting with any respiratory symptoms, so cough, sore throat, runny nose, fever, and all that, is a possible suspected COVID-19. So what suspected means is that it could be, so as Dr. Jansen said, it could be the symptoms are vague. The symptoms are not specific for any disease. It could be simple malaria. It could be common cold from other viral infections. But in order not to miss, because now what is in focus is COVID-19. So in order not to miss anybody in that enclave, we've broadened the case definition to include anybody that has respiratory symptoms, and that's suspected. So now we have 3 case definitions instead of the previously 2. So suspected is very broad, but then the challenge here is that ideally anybody coming with suspected case should be tested. That is another challenge. So that's why I believe that the president made in his recent speech said that we should be expecting more test kits.
So at the moment,
Yes.
because I want to get to the reality of what's happening at the moment.
Exactly.
At the moment, we don't have enough test kits.
So if you are using from our suspected case definitions, that anybody, so not necessarily having travel history, then we should be testing so many people.
Yeah.
But again, the challenge is that do you have the capacity in terms of the test kits to test everybody? So now,
what's the answer to that question? Do you know?
Well, it's a very simple thing. Once a doctor suspects that this case is one that ought to be tested, he will make the request.
Right.
Noguchi, as we speak, has some test kits available. As of yesterday, they had, I think, expended about 400 of what they had. And I'm sure if we know, initially they had about 1,005. They were waiting for some others from some other place, the West African Health Organization, the WHO itself, so Africa CDC and what have you. So what they have now can take us up to a certain point, but obviously we'll need more.
Right.
So as it stands now, if a doctor makes a decision that this falls into the category that ought to be tested, that request will be made.
So speaking for your members, you can say that every patient that meets the what's it called again?
The
case definition, a sample will be sent for testing.
As far as we are concerned, if you suspect, the policy is very simple. You have to go ahead and request that the samples be taken and same confirmed or otherwise.
Right. So the doctors are doing that.
Yes. Look, at this level, we are operating at a very high level when it comes to the index of suspicion.
Right.
That is where we are operating from.
Okay, good. Let's open the lines and then continue the conversation. So call us 0302-216-541. Do you have any questions about COVID-19? Certain things that you're not sure about? I get lots and lots of questions. Is it true that it is now aerosolized? Does that mean it can now survive in the air for longer than we thought? Can it survive? How long can it survive on surfaces? And, which is better, soap or hand sanitizer? Lots and lots of questions coming through. Well, we've got the two best people to help us with those answers right here. For example, if you want to know what must I do if I suddenly develop symptoms, what's the process? What's the procedure? Do I just walk into a hospital? Do I call a number? If I call the number and nobody picks, what do I do? Call us with all your questions and we'll get you some answers here. Dr. Adumaku.
So just a quick to add to what my boss has said. The broadening suspected case definition is not only for confirmation purposes, not only to have the numbers increase, but also for containment purposes.
Right.
Because it is very important that we contain the disease as far as possible. So, for instance, if one person is infected, we want to, as much as possible, restrict that person so that the possibility of, spreading the infection to other contacts is reduced. So, once we have that, anybody who meets that case definition that is picked by a doctor, that person needs isolation, and that is where the lower health facilities also come in, preparedness. So I think that because at that level they should be able to isolate that suspected case as soon as possible whilst awaiting confirmation from the laboratory. So that not only serves as a purpose of testing all of them, but also importantly containment.
Right. So essentially anyone who comes in with symptoms at this point, whether they are going to be tested or not, there ought to be some containment done of the patient.
Well, in practice, what we do is that you are supposed to have what we loosely describe as a holding area.
Right.
As a hospital. So every hospital is supposed to, at this level, get a holding area. That is where these suspected cases will be kept on, even though on temporary basis, at least up to the point where confirmation is made or otherwise. Once the test results are available, if you are negative, so be it. If you are positive, then the next level of the activity kicks in. We'll have to move you to the point where you are going to get your treatment.
Let's speak to Jonathan in Accra. Hello, good morning, Jonathan.
Good morning.
Yeah, thanks for calling. What's your question?
Three things or four key, very key. The president was given powers from Parliament. If those powers have any use, then that was the reason why he got the powers. He should announce people should not sell things high price and make it a criminal offense. Now, these test kits, I think this country should get up very, very seriously, whatever we can do to get this kids everywhere around the country. As for attitudes of human beings, Ghanaians are the most wicked people I have found in the world. You can't do anything. A law has to be made criminal to sell things higher. Otherwise, we are in trouble. Thank you.
Thank you for calling. I guess that was a comment about the prices. You can call us if you have any questions for our doctors, anything you want to know about COVID-19, anything you're confused about. Have you had an experience in a hospital that you weren't sure was quite kosher? Call us. Let's see if we can clarify things for you. Nana is at Ridge. Hello, Nana.
Yes, sir. How are you?
I'm very well. Thanks for calling.
Yes, thank you too. The question. So I would like to know from the doctors. I mean, we've heard that the precaution that those who are diabetic and those who are asthmatic and all, they are really like prone, and they have the high what's the word?
They are at higher risk.
Higher risk. Actually, yes, contracting the virus. So my question is, what are they supposed to do to stay safe? And apart from that, why is it that some people do develop symptoms but they don't? I mean, we talk about immune systems and all, but I mean, it's I know someone who was close to one of these victims. I mean, those who recently tested positive, and she was also asthmatic and all, but she didn't show any sign of the symptoms, but she tested positive too. Okay, so it's a little bit confusing. If only they can just do some clarification for me.
Sure, we'll get you that. Let's speak to Ofori in Kumasi. Good morning, Ofori.
Good morning.
Yeah, what's your question?
Yes, so I've been following the program, and then it looks like testing is being done for people who meet the case definition. But then we've been made to understand that there are a lot of people who carry it and may not necessarily show any signs or symptoms. I don't know if testing people who show symptoms and signs is the best approach at tackling this disease.
Okay. All right. We'll get you some answers to that question from our guests. Thank you, Ofuri. 0302-216-541, 0244-340-437. Call through with your questions. We'll get you answers. We've got two to go with. Why don't we get started with them? So the first one is about those who have pre-existing conditions. And there are many of these conditions mentioned. Maybe you can add to the list of what we know. We know about diabetes, we know about heart problems, we know about asthma and respiratory problems. Which other pre-existing conditions are there, and how can those people reduce their chances of catching it or surviving it if they increase their chances of surviving it if they get it?
Okay, so like you rightly said, you mentioned some of the conditions. The other conditions are generally conditions that affect the respiratory system and the cardiovascular system. So hypertension, people with hypertension, and other complications of hypertension like ischemic heart disease, people who already have that underlying condition, and people with other respiratory conditions like chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, as you call it, COPD. Example is chronic bronchitis and emphysema. These are people who it presents just like asthma. So let's put it like asthmatic groups. So people who already have these underlying conditions are higher risk of coming down with severe infection. How
about HIV?
Yes, it's also part. So any form of immunosuppression is also a risk. So people,
basically anything that affects your
that breaks
immune
down
system.
Yes. So HIV is not HIV infection, but AIDS. People who have, there's a difference between HIV infection and AIDS. So people who have AIDS and have gone on to develop immunosuppression are at risk. And people who are taking any form of drugs that also suppresses the immune system, like people who have cancer and are on chemotherapeutic agents, also suppress the immunity. People who are on steroids for medical reasons or for other purposes are also at risk. Now, the risk is mostly risk of coming down with severe infection. So for the risk of being infected, all of us are the same risk. it's just like TB. For instance, TB is also a respiratory tract infection. I mean, we are all exposed to TB as we go about on our normal daily lives, but because you and I have a stronger immunity, we are able to fight. Our system is able to fight it, and we are not able to show overt symptoms of TB. But somebody like those people that we've mentioned, they are also at the same risk, just like COVID, of coming down with severe form of TB and needs treatment.
Right. Okay, let's continue on that point in a moment, but I want us to take a few more calls so we have a few answers to give. This is Thomas in Kufuridia. Thomas, good morning.
Good morning, Kojo.
Thanks for calling. What's your question?
Thank you. My first question is, I want to be educated. Where from this virus? Is it from human beings or from animals? Or from where? Number two, what support are we giving to these our medical people? Other places, we see that where that they are doing the testing, they encourage them. They go behind their windows and be clapping and encouraging our medical staff. But in Ghana, what are we doing to encourage our medical staff? Thank you.
Great questions, Thomas. We'll get you answers to those. Do we have anyone else on the line right now? No? Okay, call us 0302-216-541. The line is surprisingly free for a few seconds. Call us and we'll hear your question. So, yeah, let's get back to the answers to those earlier questions. So, what can people with pre-existing conditions do to increase their chances of surviving if they get infected?
The first thing to do is to keep safe and ensure that you don't get infected.
Right.
That is the first thing. Because as we say, prevention is better than cure. If you are able to keep to all the public education that is going on, all the information out there, if you can read on your own, you can go to very credible sites on the net, know the do's and don'ts. As we speak, you can pen down a few things and ensure that you do the social distancing and all the bits that we are describing. Then you are safe. You don't get infected. But in the event that you develop any of these symptoms, or you think that out of your activities you have come into contact with a suspected and finally confirmed case, or all the bits that we are talking about in terms of the safety precautions, you will need to quickly get to the hospital so that your status is checked properly. And if you are in there at that point, the chances are the viral load might not be as huge as maybe if you delay. So all we are saying is that for such people, at the least sign of the symptom, or once you are very sure that you have come into contact with somebody likely to have the disease or may have had the disease, you go out there quickly. And then in the event that you fall sick, i.e. confirmed and all that, you need to disclose all your medical problems to the doctors, because that will help them in managing you well.
Very important, very important. Report early and disclose your medical history if you're unfortunate enough to exhibit symptoms. All right, listen, we're learning all there is to learn about COVID-19 from our two guests, Dr. Adomako and, of course, Dr. Justice Yankson. The Joy Business Minute is up now, and then we continue to learn more from them.
Hello, welcome to the Joy Business Minute. My name is Darryl. The Ministry of Finance has waived the value-added tax on alcohol and 2 other ingredients for the production of hand sanitizers. This has also prompted the Food and Drugs Authority to approve within 24 hours applications for medical products from all pharmaceutical companies needed to fight the coronavirus. The Ghana Interbank Payments and Settlement System GIBS has decided to waive interbank and cross-wallet transfer charges. This is in line with the measures outlined by the Bank of Ghana to contain the spread of coronavirus. And as the world continues to grapple with the pandemic, the Ghana Investment Promotion Center has reviewed its working policy. Meantime, all bank offices located in market areas are closed as a fumigation exercise takes place. Elsewhere, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development has warned the world would take years to recover from the coronavirus pandemic. The Secretary General said the economic shock was already bigger than the financial crisis. And that's the Joy Business Minute.
In a world where everything is changing around you, sometimes you need to turn to someone you can trust. You want to move with the change in safe hands, and we are here to help. As Societe Generale Ghana, we understand change because we have transformed and evolved. No matter how our name may change, 43 years of retail and corporate banking expertise never changes, ensuring stability and trust. Digital innovation as the world moves forward to help you adapt, upgrade, and keep up. Bank with Societe Generale Ghana and enjoy doing your banking your way, whenever you choose. In our digital zones with cutting-edge digital banking products and quality services, you deserve a better bank and great rewards. We agree, the world only moves because you make it move. SG Ghana, the future is you.
Abna, why are you crying?
Why wouldn't I cry, yo? This has become unbearable. Everywhere I go, I'm treated like an outcast. At home, at work, at the hospital, even at the market. Is it a crime to have TB? Is it a crime to have HIV? It's better I die. Why?
No, Abna, you can't give up and die. Indeed, a new dawn has come for persons living with HIV and those suffering from TB and sexually transmitted infections. WAPCAS, in collaboration with the Ghana AIDS Commission, is shedding light on our rights so we can enjoy equal rights as captured in the Ghana AIDS Commission Act, Act 938. Rights to quality health care, non-discrimination, equal work opportunities, and education. You may call WAPCAS on 030-224-1452 or 055-6233-663 to report any act of discrimination. WAPCAS.
Here for your rights.
WAPCAS and Act 938.
Here for life.
This advert is brought to you by WAPCAS with funding from the Global Fund.
Be happy.
It's the phone that will change photography. With pioneering features like 100 times space zoom, which has captured the imagination of the world. Buy the revolutionary Samsung Galaxy S20 series now and change the way you experience the world. The Samsung Galaxy S20 series is now available at all authorized Samsung dealer stores nationwide. Terms and conditions apply.
Accidents do happen. It could be a motor accident, a sudden heart attack, or even a stroke, or any other health emergency. The first steps you take are very critical. Should you be involved in or witness an accident, call 112 for the fastest ambulance response. With over 300 well-equipped ambulances all over Ghana, you are assured of the fastest response to your emergency call. Call 112 during critical health emergencies and save your life and that of your family and loved ones. 112, help will come. 112, we are safe. Avoid prank calls as they can lead to loss of life of persons in actual need of help. Be a responsible citizen.
Hey, Kofi, your ceiling be smooth, bright and fine, Papa.
That's an understatement. It dey blink like 80 carats white gold. This be Interface plasterboard ceilings. Smooth, bright, and long-lasting. Everybody where they come here, they fill up. Where they direct them go Interface Limited for world-class quality.
If you're involved in new property development, renovation, or decoration, the right place for you is Interface Limited. Call us on 0274-999999 or visit our website at www.interfacelimited.com.
UMB was established in 1972 as the premier bank for the corporate and private sector in Ghana. From our very beginning, as the only Ghanaian bank serving all categories of businesses, we set a standard for excellence and innovation over the past 45 years. We've built a financially healthy and strong bank, demonstrated our commitment to our customers and to growing businesses, and exhibited originality and innovation at every turn. At UMB, our focus is built around people, service, products, and technology. These are the key to our present success and our future triumphs. At UMB, we're poised to make a difference not only with our customers, but also in the banking industry. We invite you to share in our future. Our future starts now with you.
It's 14 minutes past 9 on the Super Morning Show right here on Joy997 FM. We're learning all about COVID-19 from our two guests, and what we're doing is trying to get you educated. The best cure for panic is education. Okay, so we don't want you to panic. We want you to be informed so you know what to do, how to do it, and stay safe out there and keep each other safe as well. Our guest, of course, Dr. Justice Youngson, is the General Secretary of the Ghana Medical Association, and he's here with Dr. Isaac Adumaku. And Dr. Adumaku is with the University of Ghana Medical School, and he is a specialist, if you will, in the public health. He's a resident doctor, public health resident doctor at the University of Ghana Medical School. All right, let's continue our learning. You can call us, by the way. The lines are still open to you. 0302-216-541, 0244-340-437. Whatever your questions, call and let's answer them. We have a couple that we are answering at the moment.
Yeah, but let me just conclude on the previous question.
Please do.
The do's and don'ts in code for people with underlying problems. The other bit is that you still have to keep strictly to your medications. Don't be tempted to stop your medications. You need to do your regular consults with your doctors, whether on phone, through telemedicine, or whatever means, one-on-one. If it's advisable based on the circumstances, you need to do them. All the other bits we say do in addition to say your medications. So for example, diabetics, we encourage them to look at their diet properly. We encourage them to exercise. Same with the hypertensives and what have you. But of course, if you have underlying heart problem, you need to be cleared by your doctor before you go on rigorous exercise.
All right.
That people should bear in mind.
Okay. Yeah. Now we have one outstanding
But what
question.
we are discouraging now is the exercises that involves mass groups of people.
Of course.
Yes, we are discouraging that at this point.
That's why sports has literally shut down across the world. Okay, we have one outstanding question from Thomas in Kufuridia, but we will add a few more questions to that before we get the answers from the doctors. Eunice is in Dansuman. Good morning, Eunice. Hello, Eunice.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for calling.
Thanks for having me. Joe, I have a question for the doctors. Yes. When the president spoke the other time, he advised students and then, from primary, JHS and all that to stay at home. But then looking at the way this whole virus thing is going, from 2 cases, now we have over 20 cases, if I'm right. Are we looking at workers? I mean, we share offices with others in the workplace. We eat in the same enclosed places and all that. Maybe for meetings, I'm sure by now we call off meetings. But there are still some other things that workers are exposed to. Are we looking at that too? Or kind of workers are on their own now?
Good question. Thank you. We'll get you an answer. Ishak is in Santib Bekwai. Ishak. Good old Ishak. How are you?
Good morning, my brother.
Good to hear from you. What's your question?
My question is that there are articles flying in the air that this particular virus is a biological weapon that has broken out of the laboratory. And for that matter, it has been named by those who actually manufactured it. And for that matter, its true characteristics is not what we are putting out there about how it is transmitted. How true is that? I want the doctors to look at it. So what I'm trying to say is that we are told that the true characteristics of this virus is beyond the fact that it is transmitted through droplets. It is possible an airborne disease, looking at how fast it is spreading. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ishak. Chidiak is in South La. Looks like all the old names are coming out today. Chidiak, good morning.
Kojo, good morning.
Good to hear from you. What's your question?
My goal like this. Why don't we hold the bull by the horn? Why won't they shut down the cities so that we all remain at home? Government makes package to take care of the people. Then we all start dying. That's where I belong. 2, the hospitals that have been locked down, what are we waiting for to open them? This is taxpayers' money. Thank you.
Thank you, Chidiak. And you can call us too, 0302-216-541. Omusumuru is back on the line from Domabing. Omusumuru, hi, hello again.
Yeah, hello, good morning. Daniel. So my
it's
question
Kojo.
is... yes. So my question to the doctor is, China that this is started, the coronavirus started, I understand now the rate at which people get has reduced. So how soon are we looking at that will also reduce the number of people who contract the disease each day?
Thank you very much for your question, Omusumuru, an important one as well. Kobe is in Tema. Good morning, Kobe.
Yes,
yes, sir.
I want to find out if Mr. Yamson
whether the GMA, you see, instead of we taking the normal precautionary measures, of course, that is good. But I also want to find out, because at the last time I checked, about 99,000 of the victims have recovered. And then we have recorded 14 deaths. So 14,000 deaths against 99, which means that at least there is even a high possibility of one recovering. Now, would the GMA consider that instead of one contracting the virus before the person is put under medication, would they consider that, look, they can also educate the general public that, look, you need to get an immune booster, okay? But this should be strictly be under prescription from a pharmacist, so that when you walk to a pharmacist, the pharmacist will tell you, look, this is the procedure that you need to take it. You guys should get this, get an immune booster, at least something that will try and then, what do you call it, support your immune system, just in case you contract it, so that, one will not respond quickly, becoming weaker to the virus. Would the GMA consider at least educating the public on that? That's only my question.
Thank you very much, Kobe. And I think we'll get some answers. We've got quite a lot of questions to go with here. So we'll be very quick with our answers so we can take a few more calls if possible. So Thomas in Kuforidia has the first question. Where from COVID-19? Where did it come from? And how are we motivating medical staff? I think we've talked a bit about that. So maybe a quick summary for his answer.
Okay. He spoke about some conspiracy theories and what have you, and that the people who created it have named it. Let's go straight to the facts. Naming of diseases or outbreaks is the preserve of the World Health Organization. So they named the condition as we find now as COVID-19, and that stays as it is. Now, coronaviruses are not new to the world. We've always known they existed. There's a lot of literature on them. There have been outbreaks one way or the other. But the basis of it is that this typically is a virus that the reservoir or the store is in animals. Occasionally, we get transmission from animals to humans. And then when it gets to humans, there is further spread. So the long and short of it, this is that as far as the world is concerned, in the scientific world, this is something that came from the reservoir, i.e. the animal base, and then it's come to us. All kinds of animals have been mentioned, but it's very difficult to prove that at this particular point it was from this particular animal for this COVID-19 we are talking about. But we've known that animals like bats and all that, they have. But please, once I've mentioned bats, let nobody go out there to say that the bats around 37 have coronavirus. Please. That is not what we are saying. But we are just saying that as part of the scientific literature we know, bats, for example, are one of the reservoirs of coronaviruses.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, thanks for that. Now, Eunice in Dansuman was asking, the kids are staying at home. How about workers? Should we be considering asking workers to self-quarantine, stay at home as well? Is that a better option?
Ideally, yes, but we also look at the economy and other aspects. So if everybody is staying at home, how do you expect things to run? So I think that, like the president has directed, students, the young ones, and I believe, those who are retired, the older ones who are at higher risk of coming down, because they are the ones that have all these comorbidities that we talk about, that are at higher risk of coming down with severe infection. So those above 60 years. So if the president says, yes, social distancing, schools have been closed down, markets are now, so the movement of the elderly, those above 60 years, I believe, will be at home. But then those of us who are young and able, I think for now, the ideal is to have everything, locked down and we all stay inside. But I think that this is not.
Now, let me ask you this. This is sort of a follow-up from this question. Italy, the death rate there is mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Over this weekend, almost 1,500, if not actually more than 1,500 people have died just this weekend, Saturday and Sunday. clearly this thing with the pre-existing conditions is a big problem for the people in Italy. Should Ghana be learning from this and saying, okay, we're not going to do a total lockdown, but perhaps those above a certain age, like you said, and those with pre-existing conditions should self-quarantine? Is that an option, and would it help?
It's very important that at this point we begin to talk about issues of lockdown, whether partial or full. We should not scare the population, but it is better we let people understand what the potential implications for each will be like, vis-a-vis not even locking down at all. What is the essence of the lockdown? The whole idea of the lockdown is to break the chain of transmission. That is why we are talking about lockdowns the world over. So now the question is, at what point do you call for something like that? In our circumstances, our health systems are not as robust as what the Western world has. But we all see what is happening to New York, New Jersey, Spain, Italy, and what have you. Do we want to get there before we trigger some of these things? That is the question. And if we should get there before we trigger, what would the implications be? Mind you, we have a situation where people are crammed in homes, rooms, because of the shortage in housing. We have a housing deficit. So you can have one room with 5 people in there, or a compound house with so many people. If you wait too long before you do a lockdown, whilst under the lockdown, people may be contaminating themselves at home as well because of our situation. So I think that what we should start looking at is, in a way, we've even started. We've even started this partial lockdown, except that we may have to enhance it. We started with schools and what have you. We may now have to probably take very quick decisions as to the way forward. For example, the diseases in Ghana now are basically contained in Greater Accra and Ashanti region. Can we decide that we are going to have partial lockdowns in Greater Accra and Ashanti with some enhanced measures? So, for example, I'm not saying this is what GMA is saying today, but these are the professional conversations going around. For example, can we say that, okay, we are locking down Greater Accra, all human traffic will be, generally speaking, stopped, but cargo vehicles can come in with food and what have you. So, for example, the Central Business District, where we know that there are huge numbers of people, can we close it down and leave only the food, water, and let's say people who sell medicines, the essentials? So we focus on sparing the essentials whilst we lock down the non-essentials. That way we know that at least in Ghana for now, we are containing the situation between two areas. So the Greater Accra and Ashanti, those who have cases now. We can give a moratorium for people to travel across a couple of days before that lockdown. And once we get there, we need to enforce it. Elsewhere, you have soldiers and all kinds of security agencies actually enforcing these things. And we need to start talking about this. We know there's also an economic aspect. We need to discuss it and weigh the options, which will save us. But like the earlier caller said, the earlier we do some of these things, the better for us, because if we wait too long and the disease takes over the communities, the lockdown may not give us the best of results.
All right, that answers a couple of questions actually. Chidiak's question is answered as well. Now, in a short while, we'll be speaking to some of those who are currently on quarantine since they returned from other countries last night. 2 nights ago, right? Not just last night. Right? Now, the thing that I'm curious about is how much of what we are hearing from the state institutions and authorities, how much of it sounds like it's on the advice of medical, experts, and how much of it doesn't? I ask this because we're tightening border controls when we already have community transmission. Is that not an act too late? And should we stop at that? We also have organizations like the NIA, which would not have stopped doing their registration in the eastern region if a court hadn't forced them to. Were they advised by a scientist? Is there any evidence that what they were doing was on the advice of a scientist? How much of what we are hearing in terms of leadership decisions is influenced by science?
Okay, Kojo, the issue here is that at the national level, there are professionals who are giving advice. But as to whether...
Forgive me, I have to cut in. We will get that answer in a moment, but we have to speak to someone who's on the line. We can't keep them too long. This is Antonio. Antonio is one of the passengers who arrived a couple of nights ago and is in quarantine at one of the hotels in Accra. Antonio, thank you for speaking to us. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
So I know it's probably not good to tell us where you are, but tell us about the conditions under which you're being kept.
I think we have the government of Ghana have planned this thing very well. There's psychological needs and physical needs for us. So with food and shelter, they've given us good food, shelter as well, and they have planned the whole thing in such a way that we are at peace and we are not scared. When we go here, they make sure everybody have gotten a room to stay. In terms of food, they will knock on your door, give you your food, morning, afternoon, evening. And there are doctors around who will take care of us morning and evening to check on us.
Okay, they've taken samples to go and test?
Not yet, but they will.
Okay.
This is day 2.
All right. So you've been there for 2 days, but no samples have been taken yet?
Not yet, please.
Okay. Which parts of the hotel are you allowed to access and,
we are not allowed to go out of our rooms now. However, when the doctors are in, they call us, the receptionist will call us, and they will just go straight to that located place.
The doctors don't come to your rooms, you go to them?
No, yes, please.
Okay. You can tell us which flight you came on, right? That's okay, isn't it?
All right, so we came with Ethiopian Airlines, flight ET921.
Coming from where?
Which, from South Africa, straightly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And at what point were you informed that this process will happen in Ghana?
On 21st in the evening, I was called by my family that there's a possibility we'll be quarantined when we come back, when we land at the airport. And so that scared me a bit because I didn't know the situation in which we are going to, what we are going to face, as a matter of fact. But getting here, I realized there was full-time security, getting your luggage, everything over there at the airport was neatly planned. The involvement of the military, the health service personalities, and kudos to the government.
Okay. We were told that at the airport, when you were asked to queue in order to be attended to, there was a bit of a mad rush for those who wanted to get to the front of the queue. Did you see that?
Exactly. Yes, it happened. It's true. It happened. But I realized that the immigration service personnel came in quickly to to orderly put us in line and to just call us in groups of 5 to go into the military buses or police buses.
Have they told you how long you'll be at this facility?
When the plane arrived, there was one personality who came into the plane itself to tell us to calm down, and so they are going to quarantine us for 48 hours or more, depending on the situation. And yesterday, after talking to the doctors, they said the specific and required time is 14 days. And so we are all going to go through this process. They just want us to calm down and make sure they will take good care of us.
So you'll be there for 14 days?
Yes.
Now, this is a necessary exercise, but no doubt it will have some impact on your life. Tell us about that. How will this sort of throw your normal routine out?
It's funny. You wake up in the morning, I have to do my own exercise in the room, call my family to reassure them that I'm safe. And that's it. Call my friends and just read. Whenever they knock on my door that there is food or the doctors want to see us, we step down for the checkup, and that's it. And making sure, even though I'm in the room, I have to constantly wash my hand just to make sure that I develop that habit. Yes.
Psychologically, how do you think it's going to get? All the options you have of engaging yourself are reading and washing your hands. for 14 days. Are you going to make it? How hard do you think it's going to get?
Well, it's not something that we used to do or I used to do. And so this is a discipline. And to me, we can't joke with this virus. It's happening. And it's a global epidemic. And so we have to be serious. And so this is a period for me to train myself and to also commune with God.
Well, Antonio, we certainly wish you the very best. And let's hope that the 14 days pass as quickly as possible and that you remain healthy. Thank you for speaking to us. God bless you. That's Antonio. He's in a hotel somewhere in Accra after his return from South Africa. And this is part of the government's arrangements to ensure that every person who returns to the country is quarantined for at least 14 days to ensure that they are healthy. Now, we were talking earlier, Dr. Youngson, you were helping me understand whether there is any evidence of scientific advice in what we keep hearing. But I'm told that we have another person on lockdown, Edward, to speak to. Let's do that now. Edward, hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for speaking to us. First of all, you arrived 2 days ago as well?
No, I arrived last night.
Last night, okay. Where from?
Yeah. So I was coming from London, UK.
Okay. Did you know that these arrangements would be awaiting you in Ghana?
Yeah, I did actually. I mean, I obviously have been following the news, so I suspected after I heard the president's statement on Sunday, I suspected something like this would happen. But then when we arrived at the airport in London, the staff told us there that when we arrive in Ghana, we would be taken to we would be quarantined, we would be tested and quarantined for a number of days. So it was a surprise.
So tell us about the quarantine process. You've been there since last night. How are things arranged? How do you get food and so forth?
Well, I mean, honestly, I have to say that the government and the airport officials, they've done really well, because obviously it was a last-minute arrangement. And everybody's worried. So I think they organized it very well. We arrived at the airport. They didn't let us get off the plane until they told us that we were going to be tested in the arrivals lounge, and then from there we will be quarantined. They apologized for any inconvenience this would cause. But like I say, everybody on the plane knew this was going to happen because they were told in London. And then, so once we got off the plane, each passenger was, their temperature was tested. They were required to fill out a form about their movements in the last couple of days. And then we moved to the baggage collection area, waited for our bags, and then we were told to sit in the arrivals area and wait to be called. It was at this stage that things got a little bit sort of, disorganized.
What happened?
When the coaches eventually came, we were told by the airport officials to form an orderly queue but have a meter apart between each person to ensure that there was, nobody else, there wasn't any spread of the virus if anybody had it. But unfortunately, they weren't listening. So as soon as they sort of told people that the coaches were here, people tended to rush to the entrance to get onto the coach. And the officials, they tried to do it properly because they wanted first the elderly to get on and then people with children to get onto the coaches first, which makes perfect sense, you see. But unfortunately, but people were just sort of trying to, gather around rather than just forming a queue. And it wasn't a riot situation at all. I mean, people were very calm. There were a few people arguing with the officials saying, why are we being left to stand here? There's a virus in the air. But I think people just failed to understand that if they just listened to the officials and just formed an orderly queue with a meter apart, they would have been fine. But everybody got on the coaches eventually. And so we were put on police coaches. And again, they were very, very good because what they did was each person had a seat to themselves. They didn't sit you next to anybody. And so the coach wasn't packed full of people,
Yeah.
And then once we arrived, we arrived at the hotel. They provided water. They provided water and soap for people to wash their hands, and then hand sanitizer. Everybody's passport was photocopied, and then we were given a pack of food, and then we were shown to our rooms. Yeah.
And have you had any communication about how long you're going to be there?
Well, that part is a little bit sketchy. You see, as I say, at London, we were told that we would be tested, held for 72 hours, and then, depending on the results, we would be either released or held for a further 14 days. But that hasn't quite been the case because, as I say, we haven't been formally tested for COVID-19. They've just given us a temperature check, which obviously, if you don't have a high temperature, obviously there's not an issue at that stage.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that you don't have it. So at this point, I don't know if we're going to be here for 72 hours, if someone's going to come and test me, or they're just going to hold everybody for the 14-day period. I asked staff when I arrived, when I got here, and they said, we don't know. It depends on the health officials. So It's just a case of being patient, you know.
How does this affect your plans? Were you coming home? Were you returning home, or were you coming for a visit or for business? Or how does this affect your plans?
Well, I was returning home. I live here, so I was away working, and I had to come because my family is here. I mean, my plans changed when I realized how serious the COVID-19 virus is. And it's always been my intention that once I return home, I would self-isolate with my family. So all this has extended the period of time before I get to see my family. That's all. But you have to be. I think everybody has to try and be understanding at a time like this.
Yeah.
Nobody expected COVID-19 like this, and so it just requires a bit of patience. And I'm just sort of just waiting to see what happens. But I'm sure I'll be home with my family very soon. So
what are you going to do after 14 days when you get when you're let out? Assuming you stay there for 14 days, what's the plan beyond that? Will you go about your life as normal?
No. I mean, I think life as we know it has to change for a period of time. So my intentions are, that I was saying, was to self-isolate with my family. I mean, there will be no socializing, going next to bars or restaurants. That has to change. We won't do that at all. If we have to go out, it will be purely because of food, and to sort of replenish the kitchen cupboards, as it were, the pantry. But other than that, we live in an area where there's plenty of walking space, so the occasional walk is needed for exercise and mental health. But apart from that, life will change drastically until this thing has been, put under control.
All right. So you've come from the UK.
Yeah.
How are they coping?
Well, the UK, I mean, they're very organized about it. They have been criticized because they seem to be a bit slow in sort of, they seem to be a bit slow on the whole lockdown project, you see. It's only last week that they shut down their schools, universities. And then I think on last Friday, the Prime Minister said that bars, pubs, what we call pubs, drinking spots, should not open on Friday. So they are monitoring it, and they are trying to sort of keep control. And every day something new happens, that they sort of, up the level a little bit in terms of control. And the word on the street is that they're going to engage support from the military services if needed to sort of control the mayhem at the supermarkets, because that seems to be where the real problem is. People are panic buying. For some strange reason, people are panic buying toilet paper. But now they're now sort of escalating to sort of buying goods, pasta and foodstuffs as well. And if you look in the supermarkets in the UK, the shelves are empty. So it's quite bad. People are panicking, but the government is trying to control it. Yeah.
Edward, I want to thank you for your time. This has been very, very informative. We wish you the very best.
Thank you very much.
Well, there's another example of how it's going down in quarantine, and both of them very impressed by the organization around this process. I think it also helps that they are in a comfortable place. I know the conversation has to be had at some point about how we're paying for this and so forth, but we'll get to that, I guess. Right now, though, we need to have some faith that the decisions being made by our leaders are backed by science and they're not just applying their own perspectives here. So you were addressing that, Dr. Youngson.
By and large, most of these decisions that are being made are backed by professional, advice, sound scientific advice. I mean, for example, the government has now actually put in a former deputy director general of the WHO, Dr. Nefia Samwaba. I mean, you can't get anybody better to lead or coordinate all these bits. The professionals from the Ghana Health Service, the Medical Association. So, generally speaking, that professional advice is going. But of course, sometimes the politicians will weigh some of these things before they decide on their lines of action. As whether that will be timeless enough or otherwise, it's beyond us. The other bit is that for NIA, we have no basis to understand what they were doing. We don't know whether they were advised by any professional or otherwise. That we can't tell. But all we can say is that the decisions they made at the time for us were very, very disappointing.
Now, there was a question from Omusumuru. He wanted to know how soon we will see a decline. Now, before I get an answer from you, Dr. Adumaku, I want to share some statistics. These are statistics of the number of cases over the first 8 days in Italy, Spain, UK, and Ghana. So in Spain, for 8 days, they had only one case. Of course, now we know they have a great deal more. In Italy and in the UK, they started with, in fact, I think UK started with 2 cases. By the 8th day, they had 3 cases. And then it started to grow. In Italy, they had 1 case. By day 8, they had 3 cases. And then it started to grow. In Ghana, we had 1 case. In fact, no, we had 2 cases. By day 8, we had 16 cases. So 3 cases for UK and Italy, 1 case for Spain by day 8. We had 16 cases by day 8. And Omusumuru wants to know, how soon will we start to see a decline, like what's happening in China?
Okay, so I think that answer will also answer some. I think 2 people asked that when people get infected, there are some who come out with symptoms and then others who may not have symptoms. So generally, I mean, talking about disease transmission, we talk about 3 things. In technical term, we call it epidemiological triad. So you have an agent, an environment, and a host. So all these have their features that fuel or that determine how many people are going to be infected at a time, how the people who are infected show symptoms, and then how they recover. So now, with what we know for COVID-19, it's the agent itself, which is the virus, has a high infectivity. What that means is that the infection rate is high. So if one person gets it, the chance of that person coming into contact with others and infecting them is very high compared with other diseases that we know. Now, virulence, which is the ability of the agent now to cause severe infections, as we know now, is quite low compared to, for instance, Ebola, which has a case fatality, death rate of about close to 50%. In Ghana, we have 24 cases, 1 death. When you calculate the case fatality, you get something a little more than 4%. So these are...
That mirrors the global picture.
Yeah, yes, about 4% at the moment. Yeah.
So these are agent futures. Now, another thing is with incubation period. So when the organism enters the body, how long, with the body's reaction, the immunity and all that, how long does it take for individuals to show symptoms? And with what we know, this can range between anything from 2 days to about 14 days. But however, few people, evidence has shown that some people have shown symptoms after the 14 days.
Right.
As long as even 27 days.
Wow.
Yes, there's some evidence of that. And I'm sure the cases that we have in Ghana, there are few that have shown symptoms after the 14 days from arrival from wherever they've come from, which that means that the incubation period we are dealing with 14 days need to be looked at seriously. It may be we are using the 14 days from what we knew when the virus started, but now it appears, or it may appear, that the maximum incubation period may be more than the 14
more
days.
Than 14 days. We need to immediately adjust our arrangements to suit that.
Exactly.
Shouldn't we?
So that we have always been saying, this virus is evolving. I mean, we don't know much about it. So things are uncertain. Things like incubation period, the case fatality rates are some of the unknowns. Like case definitions we are now revising it. So I'm sure very soon the incubation period, how many days people are being quarantined, may increase.
Right.
So I think that the president has this in mind. I'm sure the expert advice. That is why if you look at the lockdowns, the schools and all that, he didn't say 14 days, but rather he said one month.
Yeah.
To take care of the maximum incubation period, which is showing elsewhere to be more than 14 days.
Okay.
The other thing is that host features. So your immunity plays a role. So somebody may come down with the infection today, may show symptoms today, depending on how the body reacts. Somebody may have the infection today, may show symptoms after 14 days. So all this play a role. So somebody may have it. I mean, two people may be infected at the same time.
Right.
One may come down with symptoms early, another may come down with without symptoms at all. So talking about how long it's going to take for the epidemic to calm down. So in epidemics, every epidemic it starts from somewhere, it peaks, and then it starts declining. So for now, I mean, what we need to do is that we should be able to contain. So the cases that we have, we should be able to prevent secondary attack, secondary spread as far as possible. And if that is done, let's say now we have 24 cases. So if all that 24 cases are contained as much as possible without spreading to other people, we are rest assured that with time, the 24, whatever symptoms they have may resolve. And if that is all that we have, by in the next, let's say, if they are all able to come out of symptoms. For now, I won't talk about recovery because it's technical. Recovery is another thing, but it's them doing well and then being fit and okay, symptomless. Then we will have COVID-19. But then if containment is not done and people continue to mess with other people and community spread continues, then it's going to be very difficult to have it come down.
Those who we've identified so far tested positive.
Yes.
Chances are they were infected at some point up to 2 weeks or even 21 days ago. During that time, God alone knows how many people they've come in contact with. So is there a chance that perhaps it's already too late? The containment, are we shutting the barn doors after the horse has bolted?
So again, this is a condition that is known to have a lot of what you call healthy carriers. So people living in their incubatory period may be shedding, that is evident, not even maybe, will be shedding the virus. So yes, it seems a bit late, but not too late.
All right. Okay, fingers crossed. I want to thank you both for your time with us. This has been so informative, and we appreciate your time indeed. Dr. Justice Yankson and Dr. Adomako. God bless you both. All right, well, when we come back, there is a press statement from City Deer, the supermarket here in Accra, and it's got to do with coronavirus. We'll tell you about it when we return.
What would you do if you have the choice to do